And each crystal has its own gifts to share. So they each have their own type of makeup, and you look at them kind of like food. They each have their own mineral makeup. So like food have their own like minerals and vitamins that make them up. So these minerals make them each have their own gifts and cause them to each have their own vibration as well. And we'll sync with those vibrations, and it raises us to a different level and helps heal us.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who's out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hi, welcome to The Exploding Human. Bob Nickman here. That was Elizabeth Colburn-MORAITES talking about crystals. And that's one of the pieces of our talk today. We're going to talk crystals. We're going to talk singing bowls, two things she uses in her with her clients in healing. And we're going to talk about the challenge that she has lived with for a long time, which is multiple sclerosis, which she was diagnosed several decades ago, which led her into trying to figure out ways to heal herself rather than just the conventional medical treatments, which began with meditation, and then she found crystals to be very helpful, and now she studied in Nepal. So we're going to talk about all this kind of stuff. She's a great, great person, and you'll hear how we connected after almost 30 years. Elizabeth Colburn-MORAITES. Enjoy. Since we last spoke, you were diagnosed with MS, and that sent you on a path to healing. And so, why don't you tell us what happened, and when that you discovered that, and what you kind of went through, and I'll ask you some questions along the way.
Okay. So I was working with medical doctors, and I was also looking into holistic healing. As how can I use this to my advantage as well? And I was experimenting with a lot of different things, and a lot of things didn't work, and only a couple of things did.
Okay.
And the first thing I found that was really helpful was meditation. And I believe you were the first person who spoke to me about meditation. And when I first got sick with MS, I was kind of this crazy busy person running all over the place. And I really needed to slow it down and center. And meditation got me to do that and got me to not worry about things so much and to trust the flow of life more.
Yeah. Can I ask you just something about what the doctors were doing when you got this diagnosis? What is this? Because I don't know much about this. I had a cousin that had MS, but I never really talked about what any type of sort of standard medical treatment might be. What was there something that they tried to recommend in the beginning before
At first, it was a lot of steroids.
Okay.
So I was not a great person to be around. I'm sure it wasn't great to work with me. I mean, you've heard about people who've been on steroids for sports and whatnot, and their tempers. And so steroids are not a great thing. I mean, a lot of these drugs didn't have very good side effects to them.
I wanted to know what the standard medical community does for that. And I have seen people that have had, taken steroids for, to build muscle. And there was one guy in particular, and he was getting tumors in his body, and he was a hothead, he would just tee off. And so I was like, wow. And then I had another friend that was on steroids for another medical issue, and that had a side effect of basically destroying his immune system. So that was a rough one, you know.
Yeah, it's not your common treatment anymore.
Oh, okay.
With
Okay.
an autoimmune disease, what happens is your immune system is overactive. When people find out you have an autoimmune disease, all your friends want to recommend these things that boost your immune system. And you don't want to boost your immune system. Actually, what you want to do is tone your immune system down. And steroids beat your immune system up, they tone it way down. So when you're on steroids, it actually makes you more susceptible to getting the flu or the cold or something. So when you get around people who are sick, you can pick up their viruses more easily than somebody else.
So that was not a good solution for you.
It wasn't great, but it's pretty much the treatment. Any treatment that you take now, it makes you more compromised kind of to what's out there. But I sort of find that, my illness makes me sort of superhuman in that way, where when I do get a flu or something, I'm not sick for as long as my friend is who had that same flu bug. It
Wow.
doesn't seem to hit me as hard as it hit them,
It's interesting.
although it messes up all my symptoms and
Okay.
will even make ones pop up that I don't normally have.
Okay.
Using holistic treatments in addition to medical treatments can complement those medical treatments and make the medical treatments work more effectively.
So meditation has been a powerful one for you.
Yeah. So meditation was a really good one for me to get into. And for me, it was not something that came easily to me. So over the years, it's been something that I've liked to study a whole bunch of different forms of it to help my clients. That it's not a one size fits all for people.
And so when you say your clients, what is your practice? What do you do?
I'll work with people in meditation. I also do crystal therapy. And when I recently went over to Nepal, I also learned singing bowl therapy. So that was the last one that I wanted to pick up. Those three things I felt really worked well together. It was through meditation that I started bringing crystals into the room. When I was a kid, I was into collecting rocks. And my mom used to give me those little sets that you'd give little boys of minerals, where the minerals would be marked inside the box. I was into stuff like that.
I had one of those. I just forgot about that.
Yeah, I was into that stuff
There,
too.
right.
So
There was always a little chunk of fool's gold.
it's pyrite actually is what fool's gold is. So,
Yeah.
and that's a really great grounding crystal. It's also a wonderful abundance crystal. So
Well, let's talk about crystals, and then we'll talk about the singing bowls. Because I have crystals in my home, and my wife is really into crystals. I don't know
hmm,
much about them. I know certain ones I feel better when I'm around them, or I think I do. I don't know,
that's the
but I
only thing you have to know.
yeah. But I know there's different types. We have a lot of amethyst ones, and then my wife has this. It's like a rose stone or something that she.
It's probably rose quartz that she
Yeah.
has.
Yeah, and it's
Is it
big.
kind of opaque?
It's very opaque and it's smooth. It's been sanded to smoothness, and it fits perfectly in her hand. And sometimes she'll sleep with it on her chest. She said it makes her feel great.
Yeah.
She's a little more sensitive to the world, yeah, that way. The healing stuff she really responds to, and also, any kind of negative stimulus, she responds to that too, more than I do. She's probably more aware. is what I
Okay.
That's what I think. But like, so when somebody comes to you with some sort of an issue, whether it's physical or emotional or whatever, how do you
Mhm.
how do you go about selecting crystals, and how do you use them?
Oh, it used to be in the beginning where I would go into meditation. And then when I came out of meditation, I would be told from, like my guides, like what ones to use with them. And a lot comes to me through my writing. When I'd start to write up the thing, more would come to me as to why it was that I was using the stone. But now it's kind of like they'll call to me. I don't have to be anywhere near them. I don't have to, go into meditation, but it'll kind of be like the first stone will come to me that I'm supposed to use on the person, and I'll know why it is that I'm supposed to use it on them. And still more does come to me when I'm writing about it. And even more comes to me when I place it on the person and I'm running energy through their body, and I hover my hands above the stone, and I start to get messages oftentimes from the stone that'll be like, oh, tell this person this, or I'm doing this in them right now to help them along with this situation.
It sounds like you have tapped into some higher intuition over the years of practice, and that a lot of it just comes to you now. Now, when you say place the stone, is it like if I were to come in and I have a problem in my stomach, you would put it there on my stomach and a certain stone?
Well, it could be placed on a chakra that has to do with that area, which is generally around the stomach. And oftentimes I'll use a dowser, which has a crystal. I use a crystal dowser. It's a pendulum that hangs down from a chain.
Hmm.
And that also helps move energy through a person. It'll draw energy out and put energy in.
When you're drawing energy out, where does it go? Is it into you and you have to like expel that energy?
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
it doesn't go into me. It can go into the earth and be recycled and purified.
Can you give me a
So
specific example of a patient, maybe a recent patient, of how you treated them and what their symptoms were and what the results were?
I do have a client who has issues right now with allergies to food,
Yeah.
and it's causing issues in her. And what they're telling me is that her system needs to be calmed and cooled. So they told me to put her into like a cocoon of like calcite. So I put like this oval of calcite around her. I did a layout. It's called a layout when you put crystals on or around somebody. So what that is sort of like doing a grid, which someone is placed like either within or underneath. So I did this like oval of calcite around her, and then I placed like a couple of stones on her. One that was like grounding, and then another one that was like placed on her solar plexus as well, that was grounding in like the solar plexus area. After we did that session, and I've been, talking to her that she also needs to go and see someone to do muscle testing about the food. Go see another practitioner that can do this type of testing with her, because I can't do this with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I also showed her afterwards of how she could use a crystal pendulum when she went shopping to ask it yes and no questions. Should I buy this
Oh,
food? Should I not buy this food? Because I also feel that she's got an issue with additives, because sometimes she can eat a food and sometimes she'll eat this particular food and it doesn't work with her.
mm-hmm.
I said, because it might be that like tomatoes, you can have it this one way, but not this other way because of the additives that are in this can if you're not always preparing your own food. So that's an example of working with someone and working with your intuition and your guides. I was also using the singing bowls. So the singing bowls are all placed around her. I've got seven singing bowls, and those are for all of the chakras. So each one is a different note of the scale. they represent the 7 major planets. And each planet has its own type of energies, like the zodiac signs. So they each have their own gifts to share, like the crystals do. And they're very balancing for the body. This sound therapy balances the chakras, and it also helps the crystals do their work more fully. It's a vibrational healing on a different level. The crystals also vibrationally heal, but they vibrationally heal in a different way. There's something about their structure. They're structured in a perfect way, very much like a chromosome, but it's perfect, their structure. And our structure is not perfect. And when we get near them, we want to be like them. So through the process of entrainment, we try and mimic this crystal. And each crystal has its own gifts to share. So they each have their own type of makeup. And you look at them kind of like food. They each have their own mineral makeup. So, like food, have their own like minerals and vitamins that make them up. So these minerals make them each have their own gifts and cause them to each have their own vibration as well. And we'll sync with those vibrations, and it raises us to a different level and helps heal us.
I'd never heard crystals explained that way, so that was really fantastic. I was completely mesmerized with the idea.
I got like all pumped up.
Yeah, I can see why. It's super exciting, this idea of them being perfect and us wanting to mimic them naturally. I just love that. Where did you learn the crystal?
A lot. Well, I had gotten certification in it, but I've taken classes from a couple of different people, but you never stop studying crystals. So you're watching videos on it, you're reading articles on it, you look at like different geology things on it. So then you start getting into all the different sciencey things on it
Mm-hmm.
because you get a whole bunch of different doubters, but they've been used in computers. They're proven to have memory, to hold memory, and to move light. Obviously, there's some scientific backing to them that they do things.
How do you do the singing bowls? I'm doing this circular motion because I think you like when people used to put glasses with different types of water levels of water and they would play music on them. Is it kind of like that?
I've done that before. So, well, I have a bowl, and here I'm going to hit it with a drumstick. Okay.
Oh. Mm.
So, and it makes like one sound. But you also have like a leather mallet that you can use, a leather stick. And you can ring it with the leather stick, but you're going to run it around the edge of the bowl with the leather stick.
Yeah, I'm hearing it very faintly because probably because the microphone's close to your mouth and not the bowl. But now I hear it.
Is that better now?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Place them on somebody's body and do like a bowl massage with it. But healing really works with intention, and you have to have intention. So when I place each stone on someone, you say, this stone is for this. This stone is to open your heart and to heal you from that love that you recently lost, and to bring in feelings of compassion. It's not just me who has to hold that intention, but the client has to hold that intention. And even when you go to a medical doctor who practices Western med, you have to have intention. And you're the person who does the healing. Even when you get surgery, you're the person who does the healing. In medicine, they still can't explain why it is that when we're cut, we heal. They don't know why. So if I was a diabetic and I went to a doctor and I just decided to eat whatever the heck I wanted, I drank a ton of alcohol, wanted to do whatever the heck I wanted, then I'm not going to do very well with my diabetes. It's all about intention.
Wow, I love this kind of work. When you did the bowl, I'm going to tell you where I felt it. That was in my sort of my stomach and lower rib cage, and um, the first thing, and the second one that you did, the smaller bowl with the leather, I felt it in my throat.
This
Okay.
is the G bowl. Okay. The G is the solar plexus, and the solar plexus is located at that soft spot right where your rib split. So you felt it right there when I hit it with the drumstick.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes people feel it like right around their throat when I ring something with the leather mallet.
I was I love this. I was turned on to something called Solfeggio frequencies. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yes. That was why I went and played the the glasses filled with water. I contacted a friend of mine who did those glasses because I wanted to record those frequencies, and I told him what is it when you can give the numbers for something, the frequency?
The megahertz.
Yeah. He said if you can give me the megahertz for each one, we can do them. Yeah, so you went and heard those?
Well, they're on, they're on YouTube, and you can just look it up, and they're so I meditate to those, and there's the different frequencies react to different parts of the body, or different parts of the body
Mm,
react to the frequencies, I should say. So there's some basic, that one of them is ridding yourself of negative energy and negative thoughts. Another is like third eye kind of chakra stuff. There's like 9 of them.
mm,
There's 9 frequencies, and I think they go up to like 963 megahertz from what I could look it up, but a friend of mine turned me on to it, and what I notice is when I meditate to these different frequencies, different parts of my body will respond. And sometimes it's involuntary sort of movement, like I'll just sort of kind of I'll feel it in my throat sometimes, or even in like the base chakra, I'll be like going, vibrating, like not being able, jump.
really?
Yeah, it's a really interesting um, feeling that I get. It's almost like it's like I don't want to say twitching, but it's kind of like that. But it feels good. It's like something is being released, or
That's interesting.
yeah. So I just started doing this a few months ago.
Is it like really central, like along your chakras or
Yeah, it's central.
wow.
Yes. It's not like my arm is moving or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
all down from its throat down to like the base. And sometimes there'll be laughter with it, or sometimes there'll be sadness. It's an interesting, but most of the time it's just I'm like, this is cool. It's just
that's
simple as that.
intense.
Like I don't, and it's sort of like a combination of those tones you were doing, and then they have this other sound which is like a like washing over you. It's almost like water, but it isn't. I don't know where the sound comes from or who's doing this, but it's worth looking at. Pretty old stuff, I guess, but they've figured out the frequencies and all that.
Starting to do studies with vibration and what it does to cells. It may be that the next thing that starts getting approved by insurance companies is sound healing.
Well, it's the simplest version of that I always notice is when I go to the ocean and I'm there for an hour or two or whatever, and when I leave, how calm I feel. And it's not because I was swimming, it's because sometimes I don't swim. I just sit there. And that sound of those waves, and whatever the frequency that is, and the way the air is because I'm sure the ions are different there than they are inland. I leave there and I'm so calm. It's amazing
Well,
to me.
Yeah, even when people get those silly little, water fountain thingies at home, like those tiny little things that they sell, just the
Hmm.
sound of hearing the water movement is supposed to be very healing. So,
Yeah, I have a couple of fountains in my backyard. Sometimes they irritate me. How do clients find you?
through word of mouth and sometimes over the internet. So,
Oh, okay. Do you have a
yeah,
website?
the Om Approach
The
dot
OM
com.
approach. OM approach.
Yes,
The
OM
with
Approach.
yes, the OM approach.com.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want to find Elizabeth, that's where you do it.
Yep,
And it sounds like you
exactly.
can do stuff remotely.
I can do things remotely. I also do crystal readings. So that's another thing that I do.
I don't
You
know what
can,
that is.
and what that is people ask questions, and I'll draw crystals out of a velvet bag. And you'll basically tell me how many crystals you want me to draw out of a bag. I'll tell you what I've drawn. Like, oh, I just pulled a green aventurine. I pulled this. I pulled that. You tell me when to stop. Usually it's like 1 to 4 crystals, and I'll tell you what these crystals say in answer to your question. We go through and you ask whatever questions that you have. And that's like 50 minutes to maybe an hour that we do that for. And it's a nice session. And we do a little bit of dowsing. The dowser will answer yes and no questions, and it can also read energy of situations to tell whether things are like calm or if it's like really hectic and crazy or what the situation is. And I also have a medicine bowl. It's a shamanic thing, which I fill with water and I can gaze into that. So that works kind of like a crystal ball for gazing.
And if you're skeptical, who cares? Try it anyway. If nothing else is working for you, why not try? I mean, desperation is, I think, a lot of what draws people to these alternatives. And if they work, great. And if they don't, you try something else. That's
I had somebody contact me through Google out of desperation a couple of weeks ago for a reading. It was kind of like, can you meet tonight? And I'm like, no, I can't meet tonight.
yeah.
But I did meet with her.
And what was the results of that?
Basically, a family situation and a family thing was coming up that she had to go to. And it just kind of put her at ease before she went to it. That was, this is what's going on with this other person, and this is how you can move forward with it.
Are you able to kind of treat yourself too with crystals and sound? How do you do? Can you do the sound yourself on yourself?
I can't put the bowls around myself, the chakras, but it doesn't matter. Like if I was to treat an animal, I would not put the bowls around the animal's chakras. I would place the bowls like right in front of the animal. So I just put the bowls in front of me. I always play the bowls in the morning when I get up. So I basically treat myself with bowls that way.
And
And with the crystals, I put an arrangement on my bedside table before I go to bed at night. And when I do healing appointments on other people, I always get the benefits from those appointments as well. So I'll find that I get effects from it. Okay, we did this thing like on you for that. And if I needed some of that mojo from that stone for it to affect me in that way as well, it does. Possibly I should have given that person a discount on their session because I needed some of that stone's juice. So we won't say anything though.
what is that around your neck? That circular, it looks like a circular piece of
This
metal.
is actually a bone. I thought it was so cool. Somebody I know who makes jewelry
Oh,
made it.
okay. It's
Yeah.
not a healing crystal, it's just a bone.
I use bones for healing. I use petrified wood. That's not like a stone, but a bone is very grounding. And I have a mala that's made from yak bone that I bought in Nepal when I was away. So I think of bones as healing. We use all sorts of things that aren't necessarily crystals.
But they are attached to the earth in some way.
They, yeah, they have like a healing energy to them. I use it on somebody for like a bone issue,
Oh,
you
okay.
know?
Yeah. What's
Mhm.
Nepal like? Tell me about Nepal.
Nepal was incredible. So it was a few years back. I was like, oh, I'd love to go there, but I don't think I could ever go. I really wanted to go and learn the bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I had enough points on my credit card to actually cover the airfare to go. I set the intention that I was going to get the funds together to do this trip. And I was like, look, you're just going to buy some travel books from Amazon and you're going to plan this trip yourself. Because it's not like you can really call like a travel agent and have this travel agent find you like a bowl class and find you the things that you actually want to do. I knew I wanted to get like the healing of the Himalayan mountains. So I was like looking at a trek and it's kind of like, oh yeah, right. You have MS, you can't go on a trek. Go on a mountain flight. That's more realistic. And I knew somebody over there and I contacted him and I said, where should I go for the bowl healing class? And he told me the best place to go to for the bowl healing class over there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first thing that I lined up. I lined up a yoga meditation retreat so that I could learn some meditation. Then I was like planning all these places I wanted to visit. And I have another brother with a disability, and he kept saying, don't plan too much. Don't like overdo it. Like, don't be like crazy about this. And I was looking at the flights, and the flight was like 28 hours long. And I was like, be real, man. You fly for 28 hours, you'll be in bed for a week when you get there. So I'm like, you have to go someplace else first. So I picked Turkey. I'd been to Istanbul once before, but didn't like really explore it. And I was like, you can visit some spiritual sites when you're there. So I went there for a couple days, like on either end. And I did 4.5 weeks, like all together. It was a solo journey and I got tested. I'm always telling my clients to follow your path, set intentions, listen to the universe, face your fears, do this. And like right before I was gonna go, my drug that I was taking to slow down my MS like starts acting up. It was causing like a lot of immune issues. And I was getting like these nasty like ear infections and things just like kept getting worse. And I was seeing doctors and they're giving me medications, but everything just keeps getting worse. And I'm worried. And the neurologists are saying to me, maybe you shouldn't go. Maybe you should put it off. And I'm kind of like, crap, I already paid for part of this trip. And I got my tickets with like points. It'll be like years before I can go. I was like, just go on the damn trip. If you have to, like, you'll just fly back. Just go. Like, right before I left, I was scared. You're 55 years old. You're a woman. You're traveling alone. You've never been to a third world country before in your life. And you're flying way the hell over to like Nepal and Turkey. And you're going to be gone for like 4.5 weeks. What are you, out of your mind? But I'm playing like poker face with everybody that I know. They're all like, oh, you're so brave. Aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, I'm not scared, but I'm scared. But I go and I'm like, just take it one day at a time. Fill up your days. And I got to Turkey and I visited the Blue Mosque. You got to go to the Blue Mosque. It was gorgeous. And I was be nice to like everybody. I never got lonely. I was nice to everybody. I smiled. The best way that you can get to know people and have people be really kind to you is if you love their food. It could be the guy who just puts the napkins on the table and serves you water. But if you love these people's food, they're going to love you back, and fawn all over you. And I love Turkish food. I love Nepali food. That wasn't hard to do. So I had the best time. And I made it a habit oftentimes of like eating at the same place so that there would be people that I'd know and asking them how they were and stuff like that so that I'd know people there or walking around the same trek to get back to where I was staying and saying hi to the people who worked in the stores around me so that I kind of became part of the hood. And I had the very best time of my life. I really did. And it was so like expanding. And I can remember when I got there, I was like, I'm not going out after dark. But the universe always throws something at you. It's like break a wing off your like glasses, and you have to go to a place after dark and in a skeevy part of town to get your glasses fixed. And you go in there and it's like, oh, how much can I give you? And the guy's like, oh, no, no, don't worry about it. And you're like, I just went out after dark in a skeevy part of town. The guy was totally nice. I can go out after dark. I'm totally cool.
You were okay health-wise, obviously, once you got there. It sounds like you did okay.
I used cabs a lot. I used a stick to walk around.
Mm-hmm.
I took it slow.
It's impressive, I have to say. I don't know if I could do something like that. I guess I could if I set the intention, is what you're saying.
And when things didn't work out, like something better always worked out. I wanted to go visit this one monastery, and it was like up in the valley. And we get to this monastery, and like we're driving up to the monastery, and I'm like, oh, wow. And it's this big giant Buddha on top of the monastery. All the monasteries have this like housing for the monks that's like U shaped. And in the middle of the U is this big giant Buddha, is like 3, 4 stories high. And I'm just sitting in the back or next to the cab driver going, wow, wow, wow. And it says closed for renovation. So we leave and we're driving like along the countryside and I see monasteries and I'm like, is that new? Yes. Is that new? Yes. So he drives me to one that's like in progress of being made. And I got to watch these guys as they were like painting the outer like decoration of it. And it was like a religious, like mindful, like experience, like watching them do it. It was just so beautiful. I feel so blessed to have had the experience. I truly do.
Wow, I'm very touched by the whole thing. It's just quite lovely.
And I almost fell back into being me on the way back.
Well, that's always the danger. Fell back into being me.
You know what I mean? Like stressful me, but I could see it.
I get it. I'm so glad that you called. And, it's an amazing journey that you've been on. It sounds like you're helping a lot of people, that your life is about service. And I can't wait to edit this and send you a nice copy and get it up there on the Exploding Human podcast.
Thank you.
And the OM approach, THEOM approach.com.
I appreciate it.
And Elizabeth will be available through that website. Call her or text her or send her an email. Yeah. And she works remotely. So if you're in Peru, so what? You can get a hold of her. I don't know why I picked Peru.
Wherever you are. I am taking a Spanish class right now, but I'm not very fluent at the moment.
So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thought I'd mention that Elizabeth called me or emailed me the next day and said, I want to do a session with you. So we did. Not that day. We waited a few days, figured it out, and it was really incredible. So if you have a need to, I talked to her about some career stuff and some, you know what, I don't want to get into what we talked about, actually. It's personal. But it was great. So if you are thinking about expanding, exploring, and exploding, see how I got the little log line for the show in there at the end? Contact Elizabeth Colburn-MORAITES, and she can do a session over the internet. It's amazing. Okay, thank you. And come back. Listen again. Love doing it. Love having you. Bye.